Welcome to Worship Leader Wednesday.
Brian,
Live.
the horn. Brian,
Oh, hey, yeah. Welcome to Worship Leader Wednesday Live.
What?
Yes. This is a new format for us. We've tested this out. I think we've worked out all the kinks, but hey, if we run into technical difficulties...
No, there's a big technical difficulty. I have terrible video and audio compared to these boomers.
Hey, give Brad some love in the comments because
boomers.
His
You can't
audio
even tell
video
the difference.
looks fine.
I feel like I don't belong. I don't have any. Depth of field like you boys.
Well, Brad, you don't have guitars behind you, and you know that's your security blanket. 20 guitars.
And let me let the camera focus on those. Yes. All right. So today we're going to be tackling a topic. We've titled this the thumbnail is clickbait. That's bait.
Bait.
You know.
What
Did the thumbnail say? Does anybody actually want to serve on your team? So we're going to talk about in this video how to create a team that people love to serve on. And Bradford posed on Instagram. Are you taking an Instagram photo right now, Bradford?
I'm posting it on Instagram.
Very good.
Insta.
So Bradford posted on Instagram yesterday, maybe. Like
Yep.
we're doing Worship Leader Wednesdays are coming back. What do you want to talk about? And Bradford, you said a lot of the questions, which there were a lot of great questions that came in, but a lot of them were, how do you create culture?
They were definitely focused around that. Yep.
That's what they sort of boiled down to. And that came, if that doesn't really, if you're like, I didn't ask that, a lot of the questions were like, how do you get team members to show up on time, prepared? How do you make the worship? Basically, how do you create a place where the worship is like, fulfills the vision that you have for your church? And that's culture, and that's really hard to do. Fuller, I'm going to try and pin your comment. Let's see. How do I do this? Boom. Done. You look at that. Technology. I can move it around. Okay.
That is so cool, Brian. We're moving up.
Yeah. Yes, we are. So, if you have questions, the three of us will be monitoring them. And we will take your questions after we talk. But I want to open this up by saying, title of this, again, is how to create a worship team that people love to serve on. And Fuller, if you don't know this, a little history about the three of us. We used to all work at the same church. We don't anymore, but we used to. And Fuller actually hired Bradford and I together. So Fuller hired both of us. And within about a month of one another, so we all worked for Fuller at our church, right?
And now Fuller works for us. Take that.
So Fuller was our boss, and Fuller was basically he was the worship director in charge of the worship ministry. And is everyone drinking Stoke? Is the question that I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't get distracted. I want the replay to actually be worth watching.
That's so. Well, thank you guys for joining us.
Yeah. So here's the test. This is what when I realized this was happening, I thought Fuller has created something special here. Big services like Christmas, Easter, but mostly like Christmas. Christmas is a service. I don't know how this is in your church, but often it's the kind of service where people are like telling you months in advance that they're going to be out of town. So don't bother putting me on the schedule. They're like, basically, you got to get your request in to take that off months in advance, right? That's how it is typically. I don't know if that's how it is for all of you, but at our church, when Fuller was in charge, people were doing the opposite. Months in advance, they were saying to Fuller, put me on the schedule. I want to serve at Christmas. And correct me if I'm wrong, Fuller, but you had your pick of the entire, and we had, how many volunteers would we have on that team?
I think we had about 60 active musicians.
Yeah, and basically you had your pick of all of them.
That
right?
took time, though.
Yeah, that was also multiple campuses.
Yeah.
It took a long time.
So Fuller created a culture where people really wanted to be a part of it. On services like Christmas, where it's like usually people are like trying to get out of it so they can go home with their families, right? So Fuller, give us some pointers. How do you do that?
Oh wow, no pressure. But
What did you do?
well, hey, thank you guys for joining us this morning. And yes, hiring Brad and Brian were two of the greatest moments of my life.
I'd say that helped.
But backstage, things were falling apart. No, that's
Today on Worship Leader Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Behind the
for
music.
one, I think there's a couple things here, and it doesn't really have anything to do with worship. It has everything to do with people and just overall leadership. So I think first of all, if you're a worship leader and you're trying to learn how to make your ministry better, stop buying books about worship and start buying books on leadership, because that's going to help you learn some of the skills that you have to have. But above leadership and above all of that, the pillar that I tried to build my ministry on from day one was people are more important than what they do for me. And I really meant that, because I was coming from a church that didn't really exercise that. And I wanted to make sure that where I was going could be the opposite of that. So we, for me, putting people first was the most important thing, and everything else stemmed from there. I never made any decisions based off of what we needed or what the church needed or what would make worship awesome. I always based it on people, what they're trying to do in their lives, what they need in their lives. And I think if you put people first, then everything else will kind of start to follow that. Meaning, if people need time off, give them time off. If people are stressed out, help them through that stress. Stop scheduling people every week. All of those things, so that you show people that you care for them first. And once you show people that you really genuinely care for them, they will literally do almost anything for you, because that care is reciprocated. So that's the one thing, is put people first. And then the other thing is, you got to stop making excuses for things that are going wrong. You have to take the ownership. Everything starts with you. Whether if you want people to be prepared, you have to be the most prepared. If you want people to be on time, you have to be on time. If you want people to be organized, you have to be organized. If you want people to communicate, you have to communicate. If you do those two things, honestly, that's a lot of it. And then from there, it's just, some of the things that we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, very good. Bradford, do you have, because you've led multiple ministries at our church. Bradford has been a campus worship leader at numerous campuses and built teams and led teams and done it at an extremely high level. What do you have any thoughts about how to create a place where people really want to be a part of it?
So kind of to tack on to what Fuller was saying, caring for people, like I used to think that the definition of like a worship pastor was just somebody who like pastored people through worship.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that's great. But what I kind of realized was like it was more important for me to directly pastor and shepherd my team, because by doing that, they realized that like it was more like, and I try to convey this all the time. I told people, I was like, look, if you're not enjoying being here, then nobody's going to win. Like the church doesn't get anything out of this if you don't look like you want to be here. And like, we're not doing successful ministry that way. And so like, if you're excited about being here and like, you're loving what's going on and you love being a part of this team, like everybody can feel that. You can't fake chemistry. If you're insanely talented, like Israel and New Breed, that guy, they could pull together musicians who have never played together at a level like that. Skill, like you can learn to play with musicians. That's a different kind of thing.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to build a worship team of people and they don't know that you care about them and you care more about who they are than what they can do for you, then like it's not going to translate. And I found that when I brought people alongside, and even people who maybe didn't feel completely qualified to play, when I like encouraged them and empowered them in like their specific skill set, and like said like, you were really good at this, do this, then like it kind of seemed like other things fell together because I was boosting their confidence. And I could see how a lot of people would think on the outside that we're making it all about excellence, and it could almost come across as a performance. And I guess to a certain extent, like that's what I want. I honestly do want people to play the best they possibly can. But I think that the reason for that though is because we don't want to be doing this in an apathetic fashion. We don't want to be just showing up as like, oh, it's worship, it's church, we can just do it how we want to. Instead, it's let's get excited about like, let's play songs that are tough and let's play them 5 times in rehearsal till we get it right. And then we're stoked about playing it on Sunday morning and showing our people like how hard we've worked and leading them in worship and all that. So I'd say for like that's a big thing. All of that like kind of sits under the umbrella of caring for people, because I found that just getting to know people and letting them know that you just care about them, you want to help them through their journey in life, and like, hey, by the way, let's like, why don't you play guitar with us? Like people get excited about that. They get excited about playing their instrument. They get excited about being part of the team. They get excited about coming to rehearsal. They hate to tell you that like, I'm running 30 minutes late. I hate it. I'm so sorry. Like you want to convey the importance of things. You don't, because you create the culture you tolerate. Like if you just let things go,
We made a video with that title.
We did. But like you also don't want to just, it's a double-edged sword. You want to hold people to a standard because they don't want to just come someplace where they just coast. But you also want to make sure people understand that that standard's there for everybody's benefit, not just for that individual. It helps everybody. Yeah. But at the same time, you care more about who they are and who they're becoming in Christ over the fact that like, oh man, that dude's a sick drummer and that's all I care about.
Yeah. So. Yeah. So, just so you know, if you're watching, we did not, so Fuller and Bradford and I did not like get together. Well, we did get together beforehand saying, let's talk about this, but we didn't say this. Fuller didn't say, I'm going to say this. And then Brad, I'm going to say this. All that to say, I really appreciate the fact that you guys talked about caring for people first and building a community of people who just enjoy being around. You didn't talk about technology or a musician, you know, like we kind of talked about skill on an instrument or something, but really it comes down to you're a pastor of people, and so caring for those people and creating an environment where they feel valued and appreciated, and that they're an important part of what's happening is the most important thing. People, I mean, like Fuller said, go ahead, Bradford.
Well, it starts there. Like if the team you're trying to lead doesn't think you care for them, do you think your congregation's going to care about what you have to say about this cool new song you heard on the radio yesterday? Like they're not, like no, you can't fool people. They'll know.
Exactly. Yeah. I want to get into some practical points here in a bit as well, but I would say to create, like, since you guys have really talked about community, and that's something that both of you guys do really well. I'm putting that out there for YouTube, so you know these guys do it well. I actually served with Fuller at his new sort of post, his new station at Oasis Church, which is in the area. And I've served with you twice, and I have come away from it both times saying I really enjoyed. In fact, I had this conversation with my wife the other night. I said I really enjoyed being a part of Oasis, and it really didn't have much to do with the music at all. And it had more to do with the fact that I felt like this was a community or a group of people, because I only was around like 4 or 5 of you guys. But I was like, this is a group of people who really cares about each other. And it was obvious that you shared things that you struggled with and you prayed for each other. And so I think a practical point is, and we've said this many times in many videos, but it's worth repeating. You have to build time consistently where you are, and rehearsal is sort of the time to do it, I think, where you are spending time with one another, sharing with each other, praying with each other, and be very genuine about it. Like, don't do it just so that you can say you did it, but do it so that you can... one of my most hated Christianese sayings, do life together. I love the Babylon Bee article. Like, local teen struggles to understand what doing life together means. So whatever. But you got to build that time in, and rehearsals are the time to do it. And we've made content about, and you can search on the channel like our rehearsal schedule, like how we approach rehearsals.
Yeah. So that's a good point that we could just drop, because a lot of great questions coming in.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to dig, but if you look through some older Worship Leader Wednesday videos,
we've made so many.
You have a question about like a general topic that we maybe already have made a playlist for. You may be surprised that we've covered it, not because we don't want to cover it here, but because there's so much we could cover on a live. Like a lot of questions we got on Instagram, I'm starting to link some YouTube videos too, so people can see we've talked about it, and then from there they can kind of get an idea, and maybe we can formulate some other questions. But we haven't done this in a while, so like I forgot, like our worship tutorials YouTube fam, they love when we go live. So
yeah, live videos are cool. I'm excited to bring them back every week, every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay,
I'm gonna get my video quality up to these boomers level soon enough. So I'm the millennial using my laptop, drinking a cup of organic free range coffee.
That's right. So let's talk some more practicality. So we've sort of hit community stuff. Let's talk about nuts and bolts of like, because another aspect of serving on a team and making it like a really enjoyable experience is the music needs to be good, right? So how? Let's shift to actually. Well, I should say this, but because we get a lot of comments like this in videos that we make, the Holy Spirit needs to be, and not needs to be, is present when we gather, because the Bible promises us that.
And it's not about the where three or more are gathered either. That's about church discipline.
Yeah. So, and using certain elements of technology does not exclude the Holy Spirit. We are going to make another video about that at another time. But people want to be a part of something where they feel like they're part of a community that loves them and cares for them and will be there for them. People want to be a part of, especially younger people. We've had a lot of questions I've seen come in about younger people, or at least some. People want to be a part of something, younger people especially, where they feel like they're making a difference in the world. Like what they're a part of can change the world, their world, but the world on a global scale for good. And I believe that the church is the greatest institution that exists to change the world, that could potentially change the world. It's not government, it's the church. And I think we grossly underestimate the potential that the church has to change the world. But it's up to us to do it. So people want to be a part of something like that. And that is what that happens on a personal level and on a global level, but it happens on a personal level every time we gather together for worship. God moves among us and changes us, and people want to be a part of that. And when people are part of that and they experience it, they want to. That is a big point in making a place where people want to be there. So I kind of lost my train of thought here. I was kind of going down a tangent, but so you create, one of the ways that you create that is by like excellence in your worship service, and that's biblical. The Bible tells us that we are to do everything with excellence.
There's a lot of verses on that.
Yes, there are. So let's talk about for just a bit. Let's talk about how we achieve excellence with, as far as our musicians, volunteers who are musicians. And by the way, if the church that I was talking about, where Fuller and Bradford and I was a mega church, right? So thousands of people attending.
By definition.
Quote, by definition. Multi-site mega church. The campuses, like where Bradford and I led, were smaller. So you're talking a couple hundred people, between 1 and 500 ish, depending on the campus. And then, but the larger campus where we would broadcast from was thousands of people. But all of the volunteers that we had across the board, I say, were volunteers. We didn't pay musicians. The worship leaders were staff, but we recruited and built up and scheduled and built teams of volunteers. So what are some practical tips to, I'm going to throw it back to Fuller. What are some practical tips to help our volunteers execute with excellence when it comes to the music? Because the music needs to be good.
Sure. Yeah. So there's two things at work here. One, there's people's abilities, right? Which you have to give grace for, but you also have to challenge. So really one skill that you can develop that's super critical is learn how to be honest with people. Learn how to not be fearful of the talk of, helping people get better. Like if your drummer can't play to a click, don't be passive aggressive. Don't ignore it. Meet with them and say, hey, I notice you struggle playing with the click. What can I do to help you? Don't ignore it, and then everyone gets frustrated, but no one wants to talk about it. That creates drama. So be honest with your people. Don't think, you can tell people if they're not up to par. So it's okay, but just have a plan to work with them. But I would say probably the main thing that I see, practically speaking, that you could probably start doing right now that takes no talent, no skill level at all, and you would be amazed at how much better your musicians get, is if you just give them resources early enough.
What a concept.
Professional musicians can show up to a gig, here's a chart, and they nail it, and it's amazing. Most people can't do that. Most people, even good musicians who are, studied in high school and college, even great musicians who are part-time, need the songs early. So if you are not giving people songs at least 2 weeks out, you will never get to where you want to be. Quote me on it. I'll say it right now. You will never get to where you want to be. You have to put the songs up early. If you start giving your people songs 3 weeks in advance, all of the sudden, your musicians will be better. And that's one thing practically you can do right now, today, after this stream. Go put your songs up if you're the worship leader. If you're giving people music on Saturday, your ministry is always going to be average.
I'm going to say right there. So I have been, full-time at worship tutorials for like 3 years now. So I've been a volunteer for 3 years. I would not want to serve at a church if they gave me the music a day or two in advance. If I was serving at your church and you did that to me, I wouldn't want to be there. And that is creating a place where people do not want to serve. Go ahead, Bradford.
And it's not even about the fact that you're not capable. It's about, like, for me, I've always joked that I would really love just to see what would happen if, like, 1 week I got my whole set list thrown out. And it was Sunday morning at 6 a.m. and we were like, we need 4 new songs now. Like, I've always joked that, like, I actually would like to see if we can pull it off, because I feel like we valued our team members enough. And I feel like we haven't done stuff like that. And also I've kind of wanted to see how I would react to it, because personally it'd be kind of fun to, like, all right, let's see like what happens if, like, we're that's not the point. The point is, even though I feel like I could sing the songs or play lead for the songs if that happened, I would still not feel like somebody valued and took my time and my talent seriously. I would, like, that doesn't show value to say, like, I want to do this. Even if I didn't look at the songs till Saturday night, I still wouldn't feel valued if they gave them to me Saturday night. Like, even if they were up 3 weeks in advance and I made the choice that, like, I'm going to practice, I'll be good to go by Saturday night. It's not just about the fact that what I do, it's like, it's putting your money where your mouth is, or proverbial money in this case. Like,
yeah, we're not paying people, Bradford. Wait, where's I never got paid. Okay. So I'm just, man, I have some other practical ideas, like, schedule songs that your people, that that they can pull off, because what you want to create, you want to create experiences where people excel. So if you have a team and you want to do like an Israel Houghton song, like you want to do "Hark" by Israel for Christmas, but
Measures of 13.
your drummer can't flip between 7/4 and 4/4 like that, right? We've all done that song. It's not easy. Like, don't schedule it.
Us three, yes.
Yeah, yeah, not all of us, just the three
Yeah.
of us. Or like if you schedule Miraculum, but like nobody on your team can like play that guitar part. Like what you're doing is you're setting up people to have a terrible experience and embarrass themselves in front of people, and nobody wants to be a part of that. So I would stick to songs there are so many incredibly good worship songs that you can do. Stick to songs that your team can execute really well, especially vocalists. Like if you're asking somebody to lead a song, which I hope that you're bringing up people who can lead that aren't just you if you're the worship leader.
Yes.
Don't ask somebody to lead a song and communicate with them ahead of time. What key does this song really suit your voice best in? Don't ask somebody to lead a song that they're going to struggle with, because they're going to struggle with it in front of a whole bunch of people, and it's going to be really embarrassing for them. And it creates a place where people don't want to plug in. And then that person will always, you can scar people for life doing that to them. You can really discourage people in a calling that they might have on their life to lead people. So
that's a whole other topic.
Yeah, you don't want
want
to be the one that squelches that.
What you're saying reminds me of something, though, because I've seen this before. I've been, just as I've dipped in and helped other ministries, whether it's at New Hope or elsewhere. A lot of people, and there's a lot of merit and a lot of value in trying to create something special. Absolutely. But people forego laying the foundation first. They want to jump right to being like Bethel. They want to jump right to being like the stuff they see on YouTube. They want to jump right to being able to play all this stuff. And they forget that the foundation is important. Part of the reason those churches have something special is because they worked on the foundation. And the foundation is solid and thick
for
and
decades.
Heavy, huge. Yes. So like what becomes special, I realized this one week this was several years ago when I was leading at the Sanford campus at New Hope. There was a Sunday where we didn't even have rehearsal there was an event or something, and we couldn't do it. And that Sunday we had 4 songs, and I remember whether directly or indirectly getting after Fuller or being mad at Fuller for making me play like 4 songs we did all the time. And I was this is stupid. We play these songs all the time. And guess what? My team freaking slayed it, and it was one of the best Sundays we ever had because we built from the foundation instead of trying to make something special out of thin air. So I think, and it's hard.
That's a good point.
It's hard because you want to make something special right away, and I get that, because you want to get to the point where things seem to, like, you see things like that and you feel that, and like your team, like that's admirable and that's something to shoot for. But you will so appreciate. I mean, it's like trying to play like Cliffs of Dover by Eric Johnson before even understanding how a scale works. Like, you got to have a foundation.
Okay, so the three of us, I feel like we could just go on and on and on, because this topic is veering into like creating culture and creating excellent worship experiences. But we've been on for almost half an hour, which is a long video. And I do want to take some questions from some of you guys that we can respond to. So I'm going to see how well I can work the software here. This is Ecamm Live, by the way. I saw someone ask about that. Have you, Fuller or Bradford, have you seen any questions fly by that you think would be great for us to address? Give me a name and I'll try and find it.
Gosh. You want to just start at the top of the chat and scroll down and pin them? Because it'll probably be easier that way. And we can just answer them as you post them.
Sure. Now,
there's a lot of really good stuff in there.
This is really great content right
here. Okay, I see one. Brett Bianchi, maybe? Bianchi?
Yeah, he's got a couple.
I've tried to give this is
I found it.
I've tried to give my volunteers a break and do a rotation, but my pastor will not let me implement them.
Oh my goodness.
Well, Brett, you have a great idea. He has a couple other questions too. He has a couple other questions that may give some context to that as well.
And
there's always context.
Yes.
Can you pin multiple, Brian?
I'm about to find out. Is there another one?
Okay, cool. Yeah, he's got a couple. in
Also
there, and
dealing
they're
with
all-
9 vocalists, that one?
Yeah, and there's one more.
He's
Yeah,
no,
it
I
kind of
can't
gives you a
pin.
little.
I can't pin multiple. It's one at a time.
It gives you context to kind of his
So
situation.
we can reiterate it. So Brett, you're saying you want to create a rotation schedule so volunteers have like a week on and a week off. But your pastor, you said your pastor is not on board with that. Is that right?
It looks, yeah.
Yeah,
My
and he
pastor will
also
not
says
let
later,
me implement it. Yeah.
He also says later, and I think this is important to kind of open up the perspective here. He
I'm gonna
says,
put his
I feel
original
like I'm not
question back.
I feel like I'm not respected or taken seriously and listened to because I'm only 21. So,
okay.
so there's probably a lot to this question than meets the eye. So
There's a lot going on there.
Yeah. So Brett, only getting your perspective, it's really hard to kind of give you a solid answer. I don't know any pastors that should be pastors that don't think giving your volunteer a rotation and a break is a good idea. So I would back up a little bit. So unless your pastor literally told you, I don't want our team taking breaks, which if he did that, you got some serious issues. Run as fast as you can. But my guess—
That's good advice.
my guess is that maybe there's some things. You are young. You're in this ministry. You're very young for a worship leader to be over a church. So my guess is that there may be other things that your pastor is trying to teach you or get you to learn right now to create the culture that your team needs to be. So what I think you should do is sit down with your pastor and really hash through some of your concerns, and then also ask him this question: how can I grow? What would you like to see change in me? And then go from there, because somewhere in there's probably the reality of what you're facing. I find it hard to believe that you want to give your team a healthy rotation and your pastor is against that. What I think is maybe it's a little deeper. Maybe the team is not at a place where you can implement the plan you want to, and your pastor knows that if you do that, it might be negative to the ministry. So I think maybe backing up and sitting down with him and saying, hey, here's my issue. My people are burned out. My people are overworked. Can you help me work through this? And let your pastor speak into that. And then, because, he's been doing this probably a lot longer than you, so he's probably got some good advice for you to navigate that. Sometimes when we're ambitious, we go to people and say, hey, I want to do all these things, and we don't see kind of the big picture, so it helps to have that perspective.
Yeah.
And I think going into a conversation like that, very detailed and laid out, and like showing like, here's the win if we go to teams, here's the win if we do this, here's how we can see growth if we do this, like, and ask the way you can push back on a question without sounding like you're just pushing back is explaining. Now you got to take ownership. That's part of being a leader, right? But also leaders define reality. So do that by saying, hey, look, I'm having a little trouble understanding the vision behind this. Can you help me understand what could be the downside to teams, and help me see your side as to why that could be a bad thing? Because that's basically a way of admitting, first, like, you're taking ownership of, I don't understand, but you're also not coming across as defensive. And if you have a plan, like, pick a few things that you really think need to change and explain to your pastor why you think they need to change. Have it written out, detailed out. Like, don't just go in and be like willy-nilly, like while you're in line to get coffee one day, be like, hey, I want to do teams. Like, be intentional about the conversation and have like, here are the wins we'll see. We'll have those laid out, and just see what happens. I think being intentional is very key.
Yeah, and one other thought that I have is another comment you made, Brett, was that you have 9 vocalists on stage every week, which is a lot. That's a choir, basically.
That's a lot of microphones.
That's an ensemble.
So you have 9 vocalists every week, and your pastor, and you want to rotate them. So you have the number of musicians that you can set up a rotation and give people weeks off. But it sounds like your pastor has a very specific vision for what worship should be.
He said here that the pastor does not want to hurt feelings. Well, that's
different.
That should be easy, because that can help with pushing excellence too.
Yeah. So, and I think all of the advice that you've heard here from Fuller and Bradford, if you approach your pastor with that, I think that it would show a great deal of maturity. So I think that would speak to the
Yeah.
I'm 21, I'm young, but if you approach it with vision and compelling reasons behind the vision that you have and respect for your pastor's vision and say, but ultimately I serve under you as the lead pastor. We've had videos about that we've made a lot. Like, you serve under the lead pastor, so ultimately their leadership is you're underneath that leadership. So say, I want to fulfill the vision you have, but your pastor might not realize that, like, he might not want to hurt people's feelings. I get that, but he also might not realize that, like, serving every week is an enormous burden as a volunteer. A lot of people don't get that. All right.
Yeah.
Let's
like
move
maybe
on.
getting a week off.
Great questions, Brett.
Yeah. Maybe
Yeah.
getting a week off because you ask for it is different than your worship leader saying, like, hey, I want you to take the week off. It's different.
Yeah, sure.
We have any other questions you guys have run across that we
Oh
can...
my gosh, yeah, there's tons.
We have a
What do you
super
think?
chat from Riley.
Oh, yeah.
By the way,
Where's
just
that
a
super
reminder,
chat?
It's
So-
close to the bottom.
I see it.
Super chats.
I'm gonna pin it.
Super
Yeah.
chats are not required. We don't ask people
No.
that does not mean we're only going to answer questions that somebody pays. We don't do the pay to play thing. However, if you are kind enough to do that, we are going to make sure we answer that. But please don't
Yes.
feel like that's the only way we'll
It's
talk to you.
it's not required. Yeah. So Rylan, thank you for your super chat. You do have a very good question here that we can talk about. Do you have a few questions you ask to evaluate the effectiveness of your service? This falls under how do we define success. So
That's good.
We have a video about that.
we do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when the three of us were on staff together, we every week would have a meeting on Monday morning, and we would we did multiple things to eval our services. So each of us as worship leaders had a Google form that we filled out that went to the campus pastors and the pastoral staff at the church. What were some of the questions on the form? Because it's been many years since I filled one of those out, but you guys have been doing it more recently. What were some of the questions that we asked and answered, and then what were some of the things we discussed in that eval meeting every Monday morning as a staff?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you have to have objective stuff, man. It's got to be objective.
Real hard questions too.
Yeah.
You can't have subjective stuff like were people into the worship or was the worship good, because those questions are bogus. You have to have you have to sit down with your church and your team and decide what is a win. For us, it was really simple stuff like, was the service between 60 and 75 minutes? Because we knew that if we went too short or too long, it's detrimental to the parking lot and to children's ministry. So that's a big success for us. And so at times like that, did we announce a certain thing? Did we, do this, certain response thing or whatever? Very objective things that are yes and no questions are the best way. Was everyone on time? Did the click computer crash? Did the stream computer crash? Like all of these things that are super objective. That's a good starting point.
Yeah. We did evaluate sort of the quality of things. So, one thing that a lot of people like to ask is like, did the Holy Spirit move? The answer to that, I think, is, or you could say, did people respond in worship? Well, you might see a person in your congregation who stands and watches you the whole time, and they look like they're angry, and you think to yourself, this person is not engaged at all in the worship. But you might, and this has happened to all three of us. You would talk to that person after the service, and they would go on and on about how wonderful the worship was, and how it impacted, how the Holy Spirit impacted them during that. So you can't. I won't say you can't, but it's difficult to evaluate how God moves in somebody's life based on what is on their face or their body language, because often what's going on internally is not reflected externally. And that goes for us too on stage. Often we don't look like much is going on in our hearts and our souls and our minds, and we should. So, but we would have questions like, if you how do you evaluate, or how do you rate sort of the execution of the music, or whatever, on a scale of 1 to 5? I think that's something that you can do. And and if you write, if you're honest with yourself and it's not great, you have to understand that it's not your guitar player's fault. I mean, it might be that they didn't practice, but most often it's because you didn't lead them well, and you need to lead them better.
And that should be the way we evaluate everything. If you're the leader, you need to figure out if there's something you could have done to have, like, if it's clear one person did something wrong, you need to be honest with yourself. Like, this isn't a pity party. Just, like, be honest. Like, is there something I could have done better? Because asking softball questions about like if things were great or not, you're not going to get better. If you are content with where you're at and you think that it's great where it is, ask yourself softball questions. But if you're actually wanting to get better, you have to have real conversations and ask real questions. Like, do we really think this was the best call? And this is not turning worship into like some sort of procedure or like business, or it's a matter of saying, like, you know what, we did this because we thought we needed to show this video to talk about thing that's coming up. And you know what it did? It honestly made the next 2 songs really weird. And like, we wasted, like, you're wasting your congregation's time because we just, like, this was really weird. So asking questions about this is I think it's important, because you can then be real about what we can do to get better. How can we respect our team's time, our church's time? How can we prepare them better? Because you don't want people stressed out either when they're serving every single time. So it's all about, like, how you can make everybody's experience the best it can be, and how y'all can be bringing the best thing you can bring, how the team can work better, all that.
Cool. Mm-hmm. Hopefully that was helpful, Ryland. And these kinds of questions and the way that you approach them and how honest you are with their answers are things that will help determine culture for your church. So, all right. What do we got? Cool. What's next?
There's a question here from where is it? Landon. What are your thoughts about contracting musicians? Should churches pay their musicians?
I found it. Look how fast I am, Fuller.
Oh wow, that's impressive. I'll start with this one. My question would be, hey, if you can, why not? I think that musicians are worth their wage for sure. I do think that it's a very personalized and individual question that you have to approach. And I do think, to quote Andy Stanley, do for one what you wish you could do for everyone. There are some people that serve at my church that if I tried to pay them, they would be offended. Because that is their gift, that is their service, that brings them joy. Right. And then there are some people at my church who I know are struggling to pay their bills. And I know music is a side gig for them. So if I can pay them, I will. Because it's just goes back to the very first thing I said earlier. It's just a way to appreciate people and put people first. Some guy who owns a Fortune 500 company that has 30 Paul Reed Smiths and just wants to jam on Helix tone, he doesn't need the money. But a college student who's studying music and can barely get gas, pay him. I think, or
at least the gas part every now and again.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with paying them. And remember this too, a lot of people fall under this category. Well, if I pay him, then everyone else will be mad. That means your culture is not where it should be. You need to create a culture that does not care about that. Like, if I paid someone on my team, everyone who wasn't getting paid would be like, good for them. Because again, it's all about caring for people. So again, it all goes back to the culture that you create.
I think a lot of people, view it as it's an all or nothing thing. Like, if you have to, like you were saying, Fuller, like I think people assume there are churches that pay everybody, and then there are churches that pay nobody. And usually it's humongous churches pay everybody and smaller churches pay nobody, but that's not always true.
I've heard of small churches that still pay.
Yeah. And so my experience with paying or contracting a musician is so when I was at for before I left to do full-time worship tutorials, I was the leader at our Garner campus at New Hope, which was a satellite campus of about between 300 and 400 or 500 people during my tenure there. And we would, every once in a while, we would, if we were really in a bind, because we did not schedule people every week. It's just something we did not do. Even if we didn't have the people, we would do like an acoustic Sunday. That's a topic for another day. But we really, really fought hard to protect people and not burn them out. But we would, like if it was Christmas or Easter or something, and it was like everyone was out of town, which is kind of funny because I opened this whole thing by saying, Fuller, you had everyone begging you to put them on for Christmas. But like I knew some musicians that I could call on and hire, most often it would be a drummer. And so it would be a very, every once in a while kind of thing when you were really in a pickle. And I think everyone knew that was happening and nobody had a problem with it. So yeah, I hope that's helpful. Landon, do you have anything to add, Bradford?
Well, I think you have to evaluate if somebody only wants to come play a part of your church because they get paid. Do you want is that a culture you want? Is that a culture you want? If like you have some, I have had people that I have brought into play with me one Sunday, and I paid them, and after being with us on a Sunday and seeing the rest of the team, I would sometimes remind people, I'm like, hey, we normally pay people, but we need somebody this week in order to make this week like incredible, and it's a really big Sunday or whatever. I said, so like I can pay you this week. Would you be willing to play? A lot of times I have people say afterwards, man, I just want to be a part of this whenever you need me. Just give me a call. And so like it's one thing like you pay somebody when it's urgent. Saturday night, 10 p.m. Drummer says, yo, I got a stomach bug. I can't be there. You call whoever you know will be there and can be prepared. It's one thing. But then
pay them whatever they need.
But like I had plenty of people on my team who, even if I started paying people, they wouldn't want it. Like there's just, I think it gives a different vibe and it gives a different kind of, it feels different when you have people who are only there to get a paycheck. And some people like I know it's kind of like the pot calling the kettle black because I'm leading worship and I get a paycheck, and it's like I'm not only there for that. But it is my job.
You don't get paid for Sunday.
Basically not. Like leading worship is only like on Sunday morning. That is the culmination of what you just did for the last 5 days. Like that is all the work you put in, and actually even longer because sometimes you're prepping stuff in the week and all. But I think that paying people kind of dictates your culture, and it can kind of change the buy-in in certain regards. So it just kind of depends on what you're going for.
Derek, thank you for your super chat. We really appreciate it. Can a single coil guitar be used in worship?
That's all I use.
I don't know anyone that does.
Almost exclusively.
Okay, I found a good question, and we've been dancing around this topic with these questions. I'm going to throw it up here. Jake,
I knew that was the one I wanted to talk about. Yep, perfect.
I'm 19. I've been playing lead guitar for 2 years straight. I've not missed. My goodness, Jake. Even on staff as a word, I went. There was a point in Garner where I went, I think, over a year without taking a weekend off, and it wasn't because the church didn't give us vacation. It was because like the way things worked, it was like anytime I had an opportunity to take a week off, it was like I couldn't. And I remember thinking like it was like 50 some Sundays in a row, and I just was like, I just don't even want to think about church anymore. So he says, our pastor doesn't want any member. What is this theme with lead pastors? Are you talking lead pastor or worship pastor? I'm not sure there.
Well,
I'm guessing the worship pastor for him.
Doesn't want any team members to take a break. Some of us are burned out. I'm going to tell you something.
Yeah.
I bet all of you are burned out. There's only I don't understand this idea that you don't give people a break. But let's talk about this for a second. This is important for building culture.
Sure. So first of all, Jake, thanks for the question. Thanks for reaching out.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm sorry.
I will say,
I don't mean to say
and
anything negative about pastoral staff on your church, because we
yeah,
don't know
sure,
them.
yeah,
We don't
sure,
know what their
yeah,
heart is.
yeah,
So
yeah, sure.
I
But
apologize
the
for that
proof,
reaction.
the proof is in the pudding. And again, it goes back. So, and I've been where you're at. I've been a part of this. I've seen it. You're in a position where you need to take ownership over your own life,
Yeah.
and you need to not feel guilty, and you need to not feel any sort of negativity for needing a break. Okay.
Yeah.
So the first thing I would do is set, like everything, talk to your worship pastor. I'm sure you guys are really close friends. I mean, you've been together every weekend for 2 years. So you guys
If
are,
not, there's another problem.
yeah.
So.
You guys are probably really close. Sit down with him, and here's what you do. Okay. First of all, you're not asking him for anything because he doesn't control you. What you're going to do is you're going to sit down with him as a person who is very loyal and very faithful to him. And you're going to say these words. You're going to say, Pastor, I love serving on this team, but starting next month, I'm going to only be able to serve twice a month. So I just wanted to give you a heads up. Let me know what you need me to do to help you find some new people. But I love serving. I want to serve, as long as I'm alive. But starting next month, I'm doing the first and third week. And then you just give that to him. And now it's his responsibility, not yours, to find another guitar player. If you were the worship leader, if you were the worship pastor, it'd be your responsibility. But it's not. So hear this from me, Fuller from Worship Tutorials, and Brian and Brad, they probably all agree with me, is
I'm on the same
you
page.
have our permission to go and do this. And if you don't, you will get so burned out that you will probably hurt your relationship, and you will probably leave that church and go to another church. And nobody wants to see that happen.
How many? This is an internal conversation that we're having on the public internet. How many people have you Fuller, Bradford, and I, have we talked to at the campuses we've led when they said, I want to serve, but I'm afraid to plug in anywhere because I have been burned and ultimately hurt over and over
Used,
and
taken
over
advantage of.
and over again by the churches where I have been. How many? I mean, it's like it's got to be double digits for me.
Them. Yeah. Oh, more. I mean, it's probably
I
into
was
the
at
hundreds,
a smaller
honestly.
campus.
Yeah.
I mean, it's churches do this repeatedly to people, and they don't understand. The thing about it is, as the leader, you don't know that there's a problem until it explodes in your face.
And it's too late.
A lot of times what happens is you don't even know that someone's going through something, and then all of a sudden, how many of you guys that are watching this as worship leaders in your churches have experienced this? Everything is fine, and all of a sudden somebody either they vanish and you never hear from them again, and you're just like, what happened to that person? Or like it goes down in a really bad way and it explodes, and it hurts members of your team. It's because we as leaders are not respecting people's we're just not respecting them. We're not.
Yeah.
There's a lot of collateral damage that happens when we ask somebody to volunteer every week for years on end, and we guilt them into it in many cases. I mean, that happens. We've talked to a lot of people where there's comments and they're like, I wanted to take a week off and my worship leader made me feel guilty for doing that.
That happens a lot.
Shame on that
they just
worship
need to
leader. They don't
man
need
up.
to be a worship leader. That's terrible.
But can I also say this?
Yeah.
You will be doing them a favor.
Yeah, you
by
will.
putting them in a position where they have to build a team. You will be doing them a favor, and they will look back on this moment and go, that was a turning point for me because that showed me how
honest.
I needed to improve as a leader.
Yeah.
So
go ahead, Bradford.
Can I bridge a gap, or can I bridge this question kind of with like what we started with? Or I've seen people saying people are coming late. They're not coming prepared. They don't show up to rehearsal period, whatever. If you're not giving people a break and you're wondering why things aren't going well, can I bridge this gap and tell you that this is 100% connected? Like,
all it is
not,
it's like the calm, not even the calm. It's the storm before the big storm.
it's there you
That's
go.
right.
If you're not valuing people's time and you're not letting them know that you value them as people, and you're wondering why they don't come prepared, or they seem to be in a bad mood all the time, or they don't seem to care about, like, creating space is healthy. Honestly, what you're doing when you're giving people a week off, and hopefully they're still coming to church on those weekends too, is you're actually going to be helping build the culture of worship in your church as well, because then they will see people who serve on stage worshiping the way they worship, standing in the congregation, singing the songs as well. And then you will actually be helping engagement in worship as well. So it's not just like, oh, I'm giving this dude a week off. Like, hopefully if it's regular weeks off, like, sure, maybe they'll go on a trip or something, and absolutely. But when they're not serving, if they're coming to church as well, they're helping the congregation worship also. And if they're serving every week, there's no time to recoup. There's no time. It's different when you're the worship leader and you're paid and it's your job and it's what you do every week. Like, that's different. You should still get some weeks off, and like that should still be a priority. But yeah.
Well, and we're going to need to wrap this whole thing up here pretty quick. We've been on almost an hour, guys. This is good. It's one thing.
We're doing this every week.
It's one thing to, like, if you're a worship leader and your team shows up Sunday morning and that's all the prep that they've done is waking up early and being there on Sunday morning, that's a different issue altogether. If that's the culture that your church has and that's the culture you want, then okay. But we're sort of assuming that you're having a rehearsal, so there's a couple hours midweek at some point, or maybe early on Sunday morning. And we're assuming, and we've talked about this, that you're giving people resources ahead of time so that they can actually learn the songs before coming to rehearsal. So if I were going to serve at any church, not mega church, not with Fuller at Oasis, any church, I would expect to spend at least an hour prepping, a couple hours at a rehearsal, and then a couple more hours on Sunday. So you're looking at maybe 10 hours, between 7 to 10 hours in a week to serve. That's a part-time job, and I do it because I love the church, and I love serving. But I don't want to have a part-time job on top of my other job every week. And if I do that every week, I never get to experience church with my family. Never.
That's important.
And that is very important. And some of you are, if you're single, that doesn't resonate the same way. But I know a lot of people watching this have kids or married, or you want to experience worship church with your family, and it's hard to do that if you're serving every week. All right, let's wrap this up. If you're
one or two more
in the chat, I think we're done for today.
Okay.
There are so many questions.
There's
bring them
no
next
easy
week,
one.
guys.
Yeah. I think we're gonna cap these things at an hour. That's a long video. So if you're watching this not live on the replay, in the comments, or you can say it in the live comments, let us know what you think of this format. This is a brand new format for us. I think it's really cool. So every week, again, we're gonna come with a topic. Bradford and Fuller and I, every week, we're all three going to try and be here. There may be some weeks where it's not all three of us, but for the most part, it'll be all of us. I really like this eCam, this format. The three of us.
Great today. Yeah.
And so, like, Bradford and I are actually both in my house, but we thought with COVID, we didn't want to sit here wearing masks so you couldn't hear us, next to one another up here. So we thought we'd try this out. But I think even after COVID, I think this will be a great format for us to do these. Plus, we can do it from wherever we are on Wednesdays. So let us know in the comments how you like it. Let us know what topics you want us to cover in future Worship Leader Wednesday live videos. You guys have any final comments to add in the next 35 seconds?
Well, somebody asked
Okay.
and they said they missed, are we all not at New Hope anymore?
Well,
And,
we can talk about that in a future video.
We can. I'll
Okay.
say the short version
Talk
is
about that next week.
I'm around here a lot more nowadays. So
Yeah. We'll leave it at that. Okay, Fuller, you got anything?
Yeah, hey, if you enjoyed today, please spread the news. We're going to be doing this every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And we're going to get real and honest, as you have seen today. And we're just here to help build a community. I know a lot of you right now, because of COVID, are lacking community. You're missing being with people.
Yeah.
And hopefully this will be able to help bridge that gap.
Oh,
Invite
man,
your team
that's
members.
huge.
Tell the people on your teams, because if you're like me, you probably want them to hear what we're saying, especially when it's kind of about them. So invite your team.
and we could do one of these on that. We could do
Yeah,
like
totally.
a team focused worship leader Wednesday.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can schedule your team members to, I realize
Yeah.
it's like during the week, it's work, you know. Do you people do you not have jobs? So anyway,
Sounds
all right.
good.
Hey,
Thank you,
we
guys.
can end this the same way we started it. So
What?
I'm notoriously bad at ending live streams gracefully here at Worship
You would think
Tutorials.
there'd be some form of technology that could aid us in that.
If you've ever watched a live video here, you know that it's because I used to use. So with this new format, I think I can pull it off. So here we go. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us, watching the first Worship Leader Wednesday live. See you next time. End.